Hello and welcome to Leicester International Music Festival's series of concerts in association with the Countess of Munster Musical Trust and their excellent concert scheme. The Trust gives money to young musicians for all sorts of reasons, for instruments, for study, and of those exceptional ones amongst their already exceptional group, they choose for their concert scheme. And we've been able to invite a large number of those young musicians here to Leicester specifically to record concerts for our series. And we're here in our beautiful museum with our beautiful Steinway. It's so great to be back here. I have four musicians with us today. I have the Mithras Trio, which is Yona Manchu, Dom de Gavino and Leo Popplewell, and we also have the flautist Mira Maharaj. And they were also with us last year. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all back. So lovely to see you. Thanks so much for coming. And it's just great to be able to make some music, isn't it? And it's great for us to be able to hear you. There's a small but select crew of our board and also the teams. It's just wonderful hearing you play in this room. So the program we've got, which is the second of these three programs you're doing for us, has got actually four non-male composers, which I think is probably a record for our concerts. And I'm very proud that you've done that. It doesn't mean anything other than that you've just chosen great pieces, but it is a wonderful thing that you can choose four composers like that who have produced such fantastic music. So, the Chaminade Concertino, it's a flute staple, right?
Yeah.
And have you played it since you were quite young?
No, we came to it very recently. I kind of avoided it before because it's, I'm sure it's the same in the opera world, that some pieces are overplayed. But I think, it's the perfect piece for coming out of lockdown because it's just so joyous.
So open, isn't it? Yes,
it is, yeah.
It's beautiful. And does it feel like a piano part?
It definitely feels a little bit more orchestral, actually, although I think it was originally...
I gather it was originally, yes. It's strange that she used the title Concertino, but it sounds just very rich and full, so you get that great orchestral timbre from it. It's fantastic.
I do think it's a brilliant thing so we have this, we call it the Big Blue Book of French flute music, and Chaminade is the only female composer in there.
Is there no Taillefer?
No, there's no,
Really?
Nothing in that, but it's kind of... Gosh. A lot of people play the piece, but until fairly recently, it only kind of dawned on us that actually, we don't play a lot of female composers.
No,
but it was kind of accepted. Oh, it's the Chaminade.
I got caught out the other day because I was giving a masterclass with Juilliard about a particular composer, and it only used their initial. So I did that thing of being a privileged white male and just assuming that it was male. Not male. Bad kitty. I got very told off by the professor at Juilliard, and I deserved it. So then you've got Florence Price's Adoration. Now, goodness me, we're so loving getting to know her music over this time. Tell us about that piece, Tom.
Well, it was originally actually an organ piece.
Really? Wow.
And it's sort of being played quite a bit at the moment. It's been transcribed for all sorts of solo instruments with piano. So I think we first heard it as a violin and piano piece.
Yeah, we stole Elena Uriosti and Tom Foster's version of it.
Yes. Well, it's much more appropriate if it's an organ piece, because organ is air blown over a pipe. So, in fact, it's just a big flute.
Oh, yeah.
It's an arrangement for piano, that's for sure. But you're all right. It's such a beautiful piece. I think the audience is going to absolutely love that. That's really stunning. And before that, you've got these three Whistler miniatures for piano trio by Helen Grime. This is a remarkable music, right?
Yes, it's absolutely incredible, and we've been enjoying quite a bit, actually playing them for the past 2 years now.
And you've played them to her, haven't you?
As well? 3 years.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
You've played them to Helen herself,
to play to the composer herself. And it's just every time we come back to it, we just find new things in it. The music, it just feels the inspiration that she had to compose such amazing music it seems endless, because otherwise wouldn't be as excited to perform it over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's full of colours, I think,
and
always moving as well.
I think it's a piece that has its own acoustic built in. I remember Nusson, who she worked with quite closely, Oliver Nusson, talking about composers who build an acoustic into a piece. I mean, you're lucky with the very resonant acoustic here. But actually, it sounded even more special, like being trapped in a bell tower or something. So you've got this sort of resonance going on all the time, jangling things, but then such beautiful harmonies. But I mean, I suppose they get bigger and bigger as they go through. Do they get longer, or is the second one?
Actually, they're all about the same length. They're all about 4 minutes.
They feel so massive.
Yeah, I mean, the second one feels, I think, in some ways the longest because it's the fastest. It's got the most material in it.
Yes, I mean, was it hard to learn, Dom?
It took a little while at the beginning to kind of feel comfortable with how it all kind of fits together, and actually it took me a while. It was one of these pieces where there are so many notes on so many ledger lines for the pianist that I had to kind of write them all.
To rewrite them again. I mean, I think that I suggest to the audience that it might be really worth listening to that piece once or twice, and you've got the great privilege of being able to do that for a while. And because I think it's music that reveals itself more and more as you get to know it, and I think there's a sort of aching beauty to it as well, which is partly aesthetic in the way she's written it, and the structures of the way the harmonies are. They're probably beautiful maths inside it, I expect. She may not know that, although she may. But I suspect there's some beautiful maths inside that piece. Absolutely wonderful. And so, Lionel, you're playing to start with a really quite exciting piece by Rox Panufnik, aren't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's quite an incredible little piece for solo violin. It was written for Yehudi Menuhin's 100th birthday. And I believe it was the obligatory piece for the Menuhin competition in 2015. That's how I came across of it, because I heard it so many young musicians play it, and then I was like, oh, it's called Hora Bessarabia, and since I'm from Republic of Moldova, which historically was called Bessarabia,
right,
it's very close to my heart, because it's based, since Yehudi Menuhin was George Enescu's student, who was Romanian,
yes,
and he was a great admirer of gypsy music, and I think that influence passed on to Yehudi, who throughout his life always enjoyed sort of folk music and gypsy music, and he even played some traditional Indian.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, with Ravi Shankar, that's a legendary festival hall couple of concerts that, in fact, David Matthews, the composer who's written a lot for piano trio, told me that he was at one of those concerts and he wrote a piece for oboe, violin and string trio, which is based on one of the raga battles they had. But it's funny how these sort of things can spring forward. I mean, when you look back, what an extraordinary figure he was. I mean, just into things decades before anybody else thought of being there. And that school still is such a tribute to him.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's just such a joy to perform that piece because it's so fun, and it's sort of very traditional gypsy type of form. You have a doina, which is a very slow sort of song-like improvisation, and then you have the hora, which is more upbeat and fun, and you have probably, I hope you'll be able to hear the percussion, the sort of ad libitum percussion written in by the composer herself in it. So I hope you'll enjoy.
I think our audience is going to absolutely love it. It's a humdinger of a piece, brilliantly played. Thank you all so much. Fantastic.